Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, September the 7th, 2022. It is currently 8:21 p.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from the Theology Central Studios, located right here in Abilene, Texas. And it was, well, not right here in the so-called studio, but it was down the stairs somewhere in the house, possibly outside, somewhere near the Theology Central Studios. I cannot say with any certainty exactly where it occurred, but this morning, I can't really tell you exactly what time it occurred. Somewhere this morning, or sometime this morning, somewhere downstairs, maybe inside, maybe outside, I had a seizure. And most of you know I have a seizure disorder. And because of what happened in the military, anthrax vaccine, we won't go through that long, boring story. But I do have a seizure disorder, and they can happen anytime. And for me, it was this morning, and it was a bad one. If you could see the side of my face right now, it looks like someone took their boot and tried to kick my head off my shoulders. But that didn't actually happen. I could try to create a good story, right? That some deranged fan attacked me, someone who listens to the Theology Central who didn't like what I had to say about, the steps to church unity or the sermons that I've been reviewing from the youth conference from Indiana, that someone was upset, someone was angry, and they attacked me. That would go really, I could probably really, create a story and get a lot of extra downloads and, I'm being attacked and I'm being persecuted. But of course none of it would be true and it would all be a lie. So that wouldn't be a good thing to do, but I had a seizure this morning. Now, after I have a seizure, obviously you've got the initial hours right after the seizure where you're emotional, you're confused, you forget everything. Okay, so I made it through all of those stages. Then you kind of come out of it, you feel very tired, and then of course your body just feels like someone has beaten you down. So you have the physical pain, but the most frustrating part after having a seizure is the mental cloud, right? Like there's a mental fog. There's like a cloud you're in, and it's just, it takes a little while for that to go away. So I've walked up the stairs a number of times today, come right here in front of the microphone and go, okay, I can do this. I can go live and I can go back to the series that we're doing on enemies within the church. I could do that. Or I could go back and work on our series on steps to church unity. I could do that. I'm thinking of all the things I need to do and want to do. I probably could do something with the book of Amos since we've been working on that. There's so many things. But every time I would pull up all of the software and get ready to hit the button to go live, I would just kind of reach over and stop myself. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I can't do that because there's a high probability that this is what would happen. One, let's say I make it all the way through it. There's actually nothing wrong with it, right? Everything goes well. I don't say anything incorrectly or any more incorrectly than I typically do. That I do everything pretty good. But at the end, no matter how it goes, I'm going to feel like it was horrible, that it was garbage, and then I'll get all upset and emotional, and then that's it. I'm going to quit. I'm never doing podcasting again. I was an idiot to ever do it in the first place. What am I doing? So that nothing good comes from that, right? Now, because either one, I have to turn on the microphone and kind of beg for someone to tell me, no, you did okay. That's pathetic, and that's just not good. So then I just regret ever doing that episode, and it's just that's garbage. That's one possible outcome of doing something. A second possible outcome is I just get tongue-tied, confused. I can't say a certain word. I forget the word. I repeat myself way too many times. I think I covered something, but I didn't cover something. And you can tell that there was some problems in the making of that episode. Well, that doesn't accomplish anything because either I have to delete it and then redo it, And then I just get more emotional going, that's it. This is the seizure that did it. This is the seizure that did me in. And now I don't have the mental capacity to be a podcaster. And I no longer can talk about theology well, that is overwhelming and emotional because, you don't want to go through that. So in other words, either scenario, everything goes fine, but I just feel horrible about it, or everything goes wrong. Either scenario is not one that's very conducive to accomplishing anything. So this is what I thought I would do. I was sitting here in front of the microphone again, going, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Okay. I know what I do. I know what I'll do. So I came up with a plan. I grabbed the audio and I was ready to do it. And I came very close to going live. But then I noticed something with the audio that I was going to use. I noticed something that's been a problem for a very long time in this podcast, and no one out there in podcast land bothered to contact me and go, there's a simple solution. No one bothered to tell me there was a simple solution. So we've been struggling with this problem for a very long time. You know what it is. Time and time again, I turn on this microphone and we get ready to review audio. And I will have to say, look, I've got the audio as loud as I can, as I can make it. I have my settings all the way to 100, but I don't know. Too many pastors, when they record their sermons, they don't go back and listen to the volume. It's just too low. So when you listen to those recordings, I come in loud. The volume's way up here, and then the audio we're recording is way down here, and it doesn't make for a very pleasant listening experience, because it's back and forth. And in some cases, the audio we're reviewing is so low that a lot of people have trouble hearing it. Because look, here's the reality. Some people listen maybe with AirPods. Some people may listen with headphones. Yes. Some people may listen with a Bluetooth speaker, but I think the majority of people listen just using their phone speaker. And things are not that loud with those phone speakers. So if the volume we're reviewing is already low and you really can't hear what I'm reviewing, that cannot be conducive to a good podcast. So I've always struggled with it. And so a lot of times I'll get ready to review something, I'm like, nope, audio's too low. Oh, no. There was one that we tried to review, I don't know, maybe a month ago, 2 months ago. And literally I just had to stop the broadcast. I'm like, it's too low. It's too low. There's nothing I can do. And that was embarrassing. But I convinced myself it was. But as soon as we started, I was like, this is way too low. And people listening was like, it's too low. So I was sitting here getting ready to go live, and I tested the audio. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So after everything that's happened today, I want to go live. I convinced myself that I can go live, knowing that no matter what I do, it's going to be bad. But the audio is too low. In some ways, I was grateful because I'm like, well, then there's nothing I can do. But I thought, you know what? I'm here. Let me try something. There's got to be a way to boost the audio. So I started experimenting. I opened up a software called Audacity. A lot of podcasters use it to edit their programs, and they do a lot with the audio files and edit. Now, I don't edit anything because my whole thing about the way I do podcasting is I want it to be real. I want it to be live, right? There's no safety net. I'm live. The mistakes I make are the mistakes I make. Oh, it always bothers me, and you can hear how much it bothers me, and I'm over apologetic, and typically I make a bigger deal out of the mistake than I should. And so it's a kind of a perfectionism thing. In some ways, it's good for that. It's just like another way just to try to die to self and deny self, because everything in self says delete that and don't put it out there because it's embarrassing. But it's good to be embarrassed because it humbles me, or at least I try to convince myself it's a good thing. So I don't use Audacity because I'm not going to sit there and edit and, I can delete that out and delete that out. Now, there's sometimes I will go back and edit a few things, but most of the time, those are the smallest things possible because, one, I'm not very good at using the software. I don't really have a clue how to use it, and I haven't really spent a lot of time. But I thought there's like 100 things you can do on Audacity. So I uploaded the file, and I looked around, and I figured this out. If I hit Control-A, that highlights the entire file. Then if I go to something called Effects, open up Effects, and guess what the first one is? Amplify. The whole file is the whole file is highlighted. And then you just take the little volume control and it artificially amplifies the audio file. And so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to try it. I have three copies of the same audio file. This is the one I was going to review. And I don't know if I may review it tonight or not. I may just wait till tomorrow and just dedicate tomorrow to live broadcasting. We will see. But I have 3 copies of it. Now, I don't know if anyone's listening to me live, but if you are, we're just going to review each one and you can tell me, oh, that made a dramatic difference. Or are you out of your mind? Look, I know you had a seizure today, but clearly you're confused. That didn't accomplish one thing. You wasted your time. You've wasted mine. Please quit. Please retire. And you should never be a podcaster again. At least in my mind, this is amazing. It boosted the audio greatly. At least in my mind, okay? I don't trust anything right now. But here's what we're going to do. I'm going to play the original one, the one I was getting ready to go live with. And then we'll see what it sounds like. Then I'll go to the corrected copy number 2, the corrected copy number 3, and you can see. And I probably could have done a 4th one, but we will see. And the reason this is the audio clip that was chosen, funny story. Somewhere today on one of I think the Overcast podcast app, I get a notification and I see the name, Jonathan Cahn. I'm like, oh, okay, someone's doing a podcast episode on Jonathan Cahn. There's got to be something new going on with Jonathan Cahn. And it's Jonathan Cahn on his books. I'm like, wait a minute. So Jonathan Cahn on his books, has he written another book? Is he at another conference? And if you know Jonathan Cahn, he wrote The Harbinger, which is total train wreck, a hermeneutical nightmare. That book should be used in every seminary in their hermeneutics class to tell you what not to do to a text of scripture. The thing is a disaster. I literally I would like to do maybe a series on the Harbinger just to take like maybe my church through the book just to show you how not to do hermeneutics. Okay. It's bad. Okay. So I'm like, oh, this could be good. So it was weird on the Overcast app, there was the program, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll go find it and download it. But I looked everywhere. I looked on every podcast app. I even looked at the Lamb and Lion Ministry website. And I'm like, where is it? I can't find the episode. Because according to the Overcast podcast app, the episode was released today, right? September the 7th. Yes, today. I don't know the date currently. But I'm like, okay. So I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? What is going on? So I tried to do some research and found out for some weird reason, the episode sent out a notification on the Overcast podcast app today, but the episode is really dated all the way back in 2015. I still want to hear it because they did back-to-back episodes on Jonathan Cahn. I want to know what they have to say because they are a prophecy ministry. Are they going to say Jonathan Cahn figured it all out? Or are they going to be like, hey, we love Bible prophecy, but this is a nightmare. So we are going to review it. But when I grabbed the audio, well, then all of the issues with the volume, as I've previously stated, occurred. So I found a way to artificially boost it. So we'll start with the original. We'll listen to it for a little bit and you can hear how the volume sounds. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be monitoring this as well. So it may take a minute for me to go back. Because whatever app I open to hear this live broadcast, it's going to be delayed. So now if you're listening live, maybe you can give me real-time feedback, maybe, but I think there's even a delay for you. So we'll see. But I need to hear how this sounds. So I'm going to give file number 1, then I'll come back in and go, okay, what do you think? How did it sound? And you can tell me it was trash, it was garbage, it was way too low, which then will tell me that I'm thinking the right way. We've got to fix this problem. Then we'll go to file number 2 and you can say that was better. I can hear a difference. And we'll go to file number 3. And what I'm hoping by the time I get to file number 3, you're like, you have fixed the problem. Now you can review anything. That's what I'm hoping. Because that will greatly improve my ability to review audio for our podcast episodes. All right. Are you ready? Here we go. This is from Lamb and Lion Ministries all the way back in 2015 on an episode they called Jonathan Cahn on his books. Let's see how now, we're not going to review it right now, but all we're going to do now is just listen to the volume so that we can test this new possible solution. And then we'll do another broadcast where we come in and actually review this audio. All right, here we go. Here's file number 1.
The best-selling book called The Harbinger proved to be very popular with the general public, but among Bible prophecy experts, it caused a storm of controversy. The author, Jonathan Cahn, has now published a second book called The Mystery of the Shemitah, which is also proving to be controversial. To hear what the controversy is all about and to hear Jonathan Cahn's response to it, stay tuned.
Lamb and Lion Ministries presents Christ in Prophecy.
Okay. Now, it comes across a little louder when I opened up the Sermons 2.0 app, because that's one of the platforms we're currently broadcasting on. And I think you could hear that pretty good. I think it was okay. It wasn't horrible. Now, if I'm listening to it here, I'm monitoring it here on the software, and it's coming across way low, way too low. But it does come across a little louder on the actual broadcast feed. So that's good. But that's cranked to 100. That's literally cranked all the way to 100, and that's it. There's a high probability if someone's listening to that on their phone speaker, they're going to be like, wait, what did they say? What did they say? What did they say? What did they say? So let's go to, now let me upload really quick. Corrected version, the corrected version number 1, right? Now, same audio file, but now run through the corrected feature or the amplification. Ooh, look at that. I can say big words even after having a seizure today. Amplification of the Audacity app. Okay, are the Audacity software. It's not actually an app, but you get the idea. All right, so sounds good. All right, here we go. We're going to try this. Well, I guess technically it's an app. Okay, never mind. All right. Now I'll start questioning, should I describe that as an app or do I describe it as a website? But it's kind of actually an app you download. Okay, all right, got it. All right, so here we go. Here is file number 2.
The best-selling book called The Harbinger proved to be very popular with the general public, but among Bible prophecy experts, it caused a storm of controversy. The author, Jonathan Cahn, has now published a second book called The Mystery of the Shemitah, which is also proving to be controversial. To hear what the controversy is all about and to hear Jonathan Cahn's response to it, stay tuned.
Lamb and Lion Ministries presents Christ in Prophecy, a program that focuses on the fundamentals of Bible prophecy, showing how current events in the news relate to biblical predictions of end-time events and the soon return of Jesus. Now, here's your host, Dr. David Reagan.
Okay, that definitely sounds louder to me. I'm going to say that is a noticeable improvement. Some of you say, well, I don't really think so. I think that's a noticeable improvement. I think so. You may disagree. I think that would take something that is maybe just right there as close to acceptable and makes it completely acceptable. That's my feelings. If you're listening live, and you're listening in chat, you can tell me, or you can email me, newsif@yahoo.com. And it's perfectly okay to say, no. There was no noticeable difference at all. The sound, not the sound quality. The sound levels were exactly the same. And that's, I'll take it. I mean, I've had a seizure today, so maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's clearly I amplified it. I mean, you've got to at least hear that there was amplification there, at least in my mind. But let's go to file number 3. File number 3. So the first one was the original. File number 2 was the first one run through the amplification process on the Audacity app, the Audacity software. And now this is file number 3, the second one that went through the amplification process. And let's see if you notice a big difference in this one.
The best-selling book called The Harbinger proved to be very popular with the general public, but among Bible prophecy experts, it caused a storm of controversy. The author, Jonathan Cahn, has now published a second book called The Mystery of the Shemitah, which is also proving to be controversial. To hear what the controversy is all about and to hear Jonathan Cahn's response to it, stay tuned.
Lamb and Lion Ministries presents Christ in Prophecy, a program that focuses on the fundamentals of Bible prophecy, showing how current events in the news.
Yeah, that is definitely loud. That is. I don't think there can be any denying that that's what it could do. So now that amplification process, if I was doing this for music, I would not do it because the amplification process, you have to compress the file, so you destroy the dynamic range. I could get into a whole discussion about called brick walling in the music world, or the loudness wars, when people started listening to music on their phones, right? They started listening to music on their phones and those little earbuds. Well, the music industry was like, well, okay, we got to make the music loud enough, right? So then they artificially amplified the volume, but they destroyed the dynamic range. So that created a compressed file where you're missing the actual dynamic range in the music, because you got to have dynamic range. There's got to be quiet to have loud, and loud to have, if it's all compressed together, it just becomes like a wall of sound and noise. And well, those of us who are very, very picky about audio quality had major issues with many of the recordings and albums that were made during that period of the loudness wars. They've kind of backed off on that now. But when you're dealing with just the sound of someone speaking, it doesn't really matter if it's compressed and you lose a little bit of that dynamic range. It's not as much of an issue, especially when we're just reviewing it and critiquing it, right? Like here's what they said. The key is for you to hear what they say clearly. So I think the third file clearly was loud enough. I think the third one was clearly loud enough. So I'm going to say, okay, I know I should not trust my own judgment this many hours after a seizure, but I will say the third file clearly demonstrates that the amplification software, or the amplification process through the Audacity software, would accomplish what we need to accomplish. That no matter what sermon, no matter what Christian podcast, no matter what we were reviewing, we can amplify the volume when it's needed, so that it will be a more pleasant listening experience on your side. You can actually hear what I'm reviewing, and you don't have that, here's what we're reviewing. Okay, open your Bibles to the book of Amos, chapter 1. And then I come in, Amos, chapter 1, and it's like, whoa, what is happening? So hopefully it will make the two a little bit more similar. And one, you can hear what we're actually critiquing, and two, you don't have that big wild fluctuation. Now, very few people have emailed me to complain about it. Some claim that the problem is I have my volume too loud, which is somewhat, that's a little weird to me. It's like, well, if my volume's too loud, just lower your volume, right? I mean, okay, unless you're saying that that my volume is so loud that it's distorting. But I have a meter here. I'm not even into the yellow, much less into the red. So I'm not going into any level of distortion. So it's just, if you think I'm too loud, just turn me down. But now I can understand if I'm too loud and the thing I'm reviewing is too low, there's no way to find the happy medium. So I guess you could say, well, I could lower my volume, but then it could just be more difficult for anyone to hear me. So I think we have found our solution. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen. If you do hear this, I don't care if it's a week from now, a month from now, let me know about the three files. If you hear a difference in all three, and if you do, let me know which one you thought was the correct one. Or in other words, do I need to go all the way to file number 3, or was file number 2 okay? I'll just do this one more time. I'll run through them all again. I'm going to go back to the original. Here is file number 1. We'll just play just a couple of seconds of it. Here is file number 1.
The best-selling book called The Harbinger proved to be very popular with the general public, but but among Bible prophecy experts, it caused a storm of controversy. The author, Jonathan Cahn, has now published a second book called The Mystery of the Shemitah, which is also proving to be controversial. To hear what the controversy is all about and to hear Jonathan Cahn's response to it, stay tuned.
That was file number 1. Now, we'll go to file number 2. Same audio clip, file number 2.
The best-selling book called The Harbinger proved to be very popular with the general public, but among Bible prophecy experts, it caused a storm of controversy. The author, Jonathan Cahn, has now published a second book called The Mystery of the Shemitah, which is also proving to be controversial. To hear what the controversy is all about and to hear Jonathan Cahn's response to it, stay tuned.
That was file number 2. Now, for me, at least sitting here, monitoring that audio playing from my computer, it's completely different between file 1 and file 2. All right? At least from my perspective. Again, currently under the fog of a seizure that happened a couple hours ago. But I think that I'm not making any example. Let's go to file number 3. Same audio clip.
The best-selling book called The Harbinger proved to be very popular with the general public, but among Bible prophecy experts, it caused a storm of controversy. The author, Jonathan Cahn, has now published a second book called The Mystery of the Shemitah, which is also proving to be controversial. To hear what the controversy is all about and to hear Jonathan Cahn's response to it, stay tuned.
There you go. All 3 files. I think there's, look, that file number 3, I think anyone should be able to hear the difference on that one. But you can let me know. newsif@yahoo.com. newsif@yahoo.com. That's newsif@yahoo.com. I know what some of you think, but wait. Are you going to review? I'm going to review this whole thing about Jonathan Cahn, even though it's all the way back in 2015. I think it's a good reminder because a lot of people still reading The Harbinger and Jonathan Cahn still speaking at conferences and everybody thinks he's the greatest thing in the world. And The Harbinger was that book, one of the worst examples in the history of humankind of how not to do. I guess it was the best example in the history of mankind and how not to do biblical hermeneutics. So it's the best example. It's the worst example of someone doing hermeneutics. Best, worst. It all depends on how you look at it. It's the best book if you want an example of how not to do hermeneutics, but it's the worst book in the world in the history of mankind of someone completely just destroying a text of Scripture. So, we're definitely going to talk about it. Just won't be in this episode. And I appreciate, I know I'm going to get emails. That was a waste of my time. Hear me out here. It may be a waste of your time, but show a little grace and mercy because I think it's good for me to spend 27 minutes just kind of talking through this. While I'm currently under the cloud of having a seizure, hours, this morning, because it gives me some sense of, can I do this? Because the last thing I want to do is be turning on the microphone trying to handle the Word of God. And I'm not quite ready to do so, right? I'm not quite ready, and I handle it in an incorrect way. So if I take 27 minutes to just talk things out and I feel comfortable, I think it's worth it. So hopefully you understand. All right, you can email me your thoughts, newsif@yahoo.com. That's newsif@yahoo.com. I can't wait to hear which clip you thought sounded the best so that I know about exactly where to place the volume anytime we need to increase the volume, anytime we need to put an audio file through an amplification process. Now we can do so that the reviewing of audio will be more pleasant and professional for everyone listening to the Theology Central podcast that comes to you from the Theology Central studios, located right here in Abilene, Texas. Thanks for listening. Everyone have a good night.